we're the 21st of October 2022, and here where I find myself empirically it's 20:35 p.m. and I intend to make a video about God, like most of my videos, in which I present the formal structure with names of individual people and or YouTube channels. This is the formal presentation. I will just show the formal presentation and then I will briefly comment. The video will be rather long, but this is probably maybe my last video in this format, where I just show my own documents while commenting, because I know that they do not have a lot of success. And here it's the same table of contents, but with more subcategories. But I stop there for now. I promote the books that I said I would promote. Real Education by Charles Murray. People, when they watch this, they can look eventually at the comments on Amazon or whatever website sells these books, and to notice that there is a problem with the educational system in the United States of America. John Taylor Gatto, Dumbing Us Down. The School Revolution by Ron Paul. Yeah, as of now, over the past few weeks, my videos have made between 15 and 30 views. One of my purpose is to make my videos successful eventually. Yeah, we have Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber. Most jobs in a modern economy are useless, pointless. They are a waste of time for the person who has the job and for society at large. There is the right-wing economic version with Ludwig von Mises, Bureaucracy. That's an older book, but it says the same story. And we have a book about Charles Murray, In Our Hands, A Plan to Replace the Welfare State. There are many books about the problems of the welfare state, etc. These are moderate books, common sense, American common sense, as I call this. And we have also a book, The Pantry Primer, by Daisy Luther, just to how to buy a pantry, food, yeah, resources. And here, Water Survival Guide, The Preppers, by Daisy Luther as well. So that's for the introduction of books. Now I will keep showing the table of contents. Here it's more detailed, so I will show in this video names of individuals, living individuals, who talk publicly about all the topics found within God, namely structured. So we have logic, nature, and spirit. I really simplified to the utmost. I will not use my categories. I have translated in English. These are famous people for those who have an access to the internet or the opportunity to have leisure. So here it's the format structure. I will not comment as of now because there is an even more detailed and subcategorized. Here just the categories in a logical, structured order. I try to provide the view of the totality. The video will be quite long, but I have not prepared what I'm about to say. I just take a few notes to structure the introduction. I will not edit the video. I take, it's not risks, but I let go. I have given up on my attempt to make a rigorous speech, but I nonetheless, maybe that's the last time in English, or I don't know, that I speak more or less rigorously. Here it's not really rigorous, but it's formally rigorous, just to situate the various fields of knowledge, which are also the structure of reality. This is what is contained within being, which is God. There is politics within God. I don't know why, because it seems like a waste of time for me, but yeah. So here it's just the formal structure, that's the table of content. It goes from the left to the right here, so we have... These are not the totality, it's just my own perspective on being, on the substance, in the language of Spinoza or Hegel, namely the objective world. This is how I envision the categories which structure the objective world, and there will be all the names of people that I can list it. I have not even worked thoroughly on this, because I could list here all the musicians of living musicians and dead musicians as well. I've just listed a few names. I did this very rapidly. It's just to show to the people who watch this what is God, in a way. Yeah. So here it's just, for instance, here are the three first names in the realm of mathematics, mathematicians, but I will go up top. Yeah. So now my introduction. It has been 6 minutes 40. I will take notes so that I can put the structure of the video in the description below. So my introduction, what I wanted to say. Through the internet, knowledge is made available potentially to everyone with an internet connection in real time, worldwide. Here it's 20:42 p.m. in France. When I post the video, it will be in many hours, but it will be available directly to all those who are potentially interested in the totality of being becoming conscious of itself, which is a formal definition of God, in a way. So, there is only one mind, the mind of God, which is fragmented into billions of pieces. Each thinking individual consciousness carries, here it's a metaphorical way of speaking, carries within his mind certain ideas, a certain point of view on reality, on the experience of being, and he or she has a perspective on being, on God. And there is only one spirit. Spirit is the immaterial substance. It is mediated by intellectual cognition, so it's a higher moment than mind. Mind would be the thoughts, and spirit would be the substance which lives in various individuals, and there are very few people who are spiritually how should I say, who are spiritual or inspired, but I have recognized through my own intellectual and life journey individuals in whom spirit lives, individuals with whom I am spiritually connected. So there is one mind, one spirit, there's only one of us, God, basically. I just take examples. I will talk about libertarianism. There is only one libertarian mind, namely libertarian ideas are the same in every country and in the mind in every libertarian who thinks about economics or politics, etc. But they are nonetheless different because each thinks differently about certain topics. But the libertarian mindset, there is only one, which is made manifest, exteriorizes itself, gives itself a presence, particularizes itself into all the various individual libertarians, and then, depending on their level of intelligence, culture, responsibility, knowledge, they embody more or less the libertarian mindset. The one I think of is Mr. Jeff Deist. He's not the most intelligent in terms of purely abstract intelligence, so I don't know who that would be, maybe Hans Hermann Hoppe, but he's maybe the most spiritual as of now because he embodies intelligence, he's well spoken, he understands the zeitgeist, so yeah, Jeff Deist is important. And what I want to say is precisely through the internet, libertarian ideas, but actually all ideas, communist ideas as well, nationalist ideas, ecological ideas are made available to potentially all the internet users in real time, and therefore libertarian ideas, any libertarian from any country on this planet who is interested in liberty can take for himself, if he has the leisure, the time, the understanding, the will, the interest, the intelligence to grasp these ideas and to make them manifest through his actions. And it goes the same for every other kind of ideas. But the good thing about libertarianism is that it is universal. It can be applied to everyone with no contradiction, or with the least amount of contradictions, because it's a universal ideology. Yeah, because it means I respect your liberty, you respect my liberty. I associate with the people I want to associate. I speak the words that I want to speak, and I grant you the right to do the same. That's the ideal of libertarianism. It's very difficult to implement, and it's sometimes contradictory, but that's the ideal. The educational system. I've picked up books about the American educational system, but there are so anyone who is interested in the quality or lack thereof of American education can become aware in real time of all the problems of the educational system. But it's valid for most Western countries. There are problems in most Western countries, and eventually worldwide. So first is to acknowledge the problem, to identify the causes, and then eventually to bring about the solution. Yeah, the same goes with the welfare state, illegal immigration, crime, drugs, socialism. There are many problems, the excesses of capitalism as well. There are many problems, the political corruption, and so it can become manifest, and people can become aware of this in real time if they know how to search, if they are intelligent enough to understand, etc., etc. Now I will show again the formal presentation. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And what I understood recently is that one of the reasons why I have almost no quantitative success with my videos is because I do not apply my own teachings, and one of them is I do not expect anything from others that I do not expect from myself, or I do not expect anything at all. So how could I expect others to watch my video if I do not watch my own videos? Or so I have started watching my own videos, because otherwise no one does this. And I have found wisdom in some of my videos. Prepping. I'm not a prepper. I am willing to share my resources, but I cannot expect others to prepare for just common sense planning of taking care of a household if I do not do this myself. So what I do every day, as long as I can go out peacefully, I go out and buy groceries for myself, but the counterpart is that I give away in forms of food stamps my excess of money, because the banking system, it's kind of a scam. So I take step-by-step money out of the banking system, not to keep them for myself, but to give the excesses to others in the form of food stamps. I don't expect others to do this. That's what I've been doing for the past weeks, and I will keep doing this as long as I can. Minimalism. We'll talk about minimalism in the process. I get rid of all the useless material objects. Every day I get rid of objects, clothes, tools in the kitchen. How do you call this? What you put in the washing machine. Yeah. Plastic, useless plastic stuff. I get rid of a lot of things. I simplify my material life. I have very few clothes quantitatively. I keep my books as of now, but I will be willing to give my books eventually. I have shared my library, my books in most of my videos. Not all of them. The right wing, I have them here. But at some moment I won't use my books because I almost don't read them any longer. I haven't read most of them because, yeah. Yeah, I give money to beggars when I encounter beggars in the form of food stamps. Not for the sake of giving them money, but in exchange for work. I tell them, you will work for 1 hour, 2 hours, and I give you a food stamp and I give you money to work. That's my way of solving problems on a singular level. On a universal level, I produce video as long as I can. yeah, and how do I solve the problem of the educational system? That's one thing, to denounce the problems, and then is to find a solution. And what I do is I have published videos about lectures on logic. Maybe I will put the link about speculative logic, the logic of quantity. Yeah, and I provide in my videos that I call now the bureaucratic videos, maybe, where I use my own documents. I provide a formal structure of the totality of God. Yeah, so if anyone other than myself, but at some level, you know, but if others who experience themselves as being different, if they are interested in God, I provide a formal structure. There is enough determinations and layers of being and ontological moments and sciences and things within God, so that everyone can find something interesting, I guess. Or maybe I don't, precisely because I've been talking about this totality for many months, and I have had almost no quantitative success. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's what I had to say. Then I also want to say that I improve intellectually every waking hour. I sleep less and less, but every waking hour I become smarter, which makes me look back retrospectively, and I see only mistakes, errors, etc. Not only, but mostly. And that's why it makes me kind of bitter sometimes, but also I become smarter. And that's why what I said in my previous videos, I do not deny that I said what I said, but I would say things differently today because I am more intelligent, wiser maybe. Yeah. One of my goals, my goal is to, conscious goal, there are many other, but the priority for me is to be able to express myself freely as long as I can speak. I just want to be able to speak, because many problems can be solved if people were allowed to express themselves freely. There are problems with free speech because people who are immature, not very intelligent, irresponsible, or dangerous for the bad aspect can be allowed to express themselves in certain circumstances. But as of now, and free speech is a principle because God is in favor of free speech eventually, not always, but because without free speech there is no knowledge, without knowledge there is no cognition of God. So yeah, as of now, I will do what I intend to do, namely to implement free speech for myself, and then as long as I can speak publicly or speak at all, I don't know. Yeah. Then, okay, it's been 18 minutes. We're just in the introduction. I want to say that in the case of people stumble upon this video for the first time, I don't know. As of now, I have between 15 and 30 views for most of my videos. And I talk about God in every video. So there are between 15 and 30 people who are interested or who stumble upon my vision of God, which is actually God's vision, because here, that's what I said, I embarked upon a cognitive process in 2016, and I had spiritual experiences in 2017, 2018. In August 2018, I knew myself to be the whole of reality, which is the root of all evil, because all the evils are within reality. That's when I identified with Satan, as they call it in the Christian mythology, but also with God. And I thought, I don't want to sound like a prophet, precisely because the difference, maybe I am, but the difference between me and other prophets who say, oh, I have the truth, is that I try to back my truth by data and by a system, by a structure, by knowledge, and by rationality in a way. And here, I have made this countless times, videos where I present the formal structure of the totality. But that's why I try to prove what I assert, not just to say, oh, there's this guy who says he's God or whatever. I try to provide the information and the conceptual frame to back my claim. And one of my problems, yeah, it's a psychological problem, maybe, is that I know myself that I have to die at some moment. I will survive in one form or another. I don't know exactly how, but if I have to die without others ever knowing about my existence, or what they think God is, the God of the religion, is completely disconnected from what God actually is. So if I have to die without others ever knowing about me, I must admit that it would be kind of a frustration, and that explains a lot of my frustration and my sometimes dubious decisions, or my decision is that I have known myself to be God within, to be, in a way, to be all alone, but surrounded by billions of others who are not even aware of my existence, although I have tried to communicate for years. I made many errors, but I've produced now, I think, more than 600 videos. Some of them have been deleted in 2019, but there are still hundreds of videos on the various channels. I will put the links. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so what can be envisioned? I don't know how the video will be titled, but maybe it will be, I don't know, but what I do with this video, what I intend to do is, in the various mythology, Prometheus stealing the fire or the lightning from Zeus and giving it to mortals, Lucifer, the light bringer who brings the light, and Robin Hood, who steals from the rich to give to the poor. That's European, Greek and Christian mythology mixed together. Yeah. So that can be envisioned. I try to bring the light, which is the view of the totality, not in a very rigorous way. I will not comment the interconnectedness, etc., etc. But here are examples of scientists. But yeah, that's what I intend to do. Also, I wrote, I am misunderstood. I've understood it simply because I think way too fast. I think way too fast. That's why I have no success with my videos, because I wrote the example of democracy. For me, it was clear in 2017, so 5 years ago, that democracy is some sort of a scam, in the sense that it's not, I never voted, and I never even had the illusion that participating in the political game in a democracy was useful or meaningful or whatever. That's why I've understood this recently, that I am good and evil, not always, but good and evil at the same time, in the sense that if I say democracy is some sort of a joke, it's not really serious. Oh, there are people who died for democracy. Whenever I hear this, I say, well, there are people who died for German nationalism, and they are accused of being evil, etc. So there are people who died for many causes, many reasons. But if I say democracy is kind of fake, it ruins the meaning of the people who have been involved, the politicians who are honest, those who vote, those who dedicate their life to political activism, etc., etc. But at the same time, that's what I understood 5 years ago. So for me, it was not. I didn't have to explain this, because it's self-evident. But actually, it's only self-evident for a select few. There are many people who believe in democracy, and those who don't believe. It's not because they have aufgehoben, they have not overcome the democratic moment, but because they are too stupid or too limited or too whatever to even care about the question of politics. But then there are those who negate democracy from the top, namely those who vaguely know about the political game, one might say, and they understand, okay, it's kind of a joke. I will not waste my time getting involved in politics, because it's not in democratic politics, because it's useless. And I've understood this 5 years ago, and already before. I never thought that democracy was kind of at some level, maybe it is, but yeah, in ordinary consciousness, it's not. I never even bothered voting or thinking that it might be useful, because it was so self-evident anyway. The same goes with television. The idea that there are people watching television, I used to do this empirically when I was a child and maybe a teenager, but the idea that people might enjoy watching TV, for me, it's completely removed from my consciousness. Like, yeah, that's why, yeah, or the people who watch the media and who trust the interpretation, the facts, they cannot be denied, but the interpretation, for me, it's so self-evident. It has been self-evident for 5 or 6 years now. So the idea that there are still people who follow the mainstream media or watch television or believe in democracy or whatever, for me, it has been completely removed from my consciousness. That's why I've understood recently that actually I have maybe to go through all the steps again, but I will not make lectures or videos to explain why there are problems with all these phenomena, political or social phenomena, because other people do this, the ones that I will list. Here are just scientists. Here are ecologists. So it's structured according to the scientific category. So I just understood this is actually that I think way too fast. That's why I am misunderstood. Yeah. Also, I've noted, this is just the introduction. I will comment not very rigorously, but more slightly rigorously later. So these are just the names of people that I've encountered. I know them broadly. I can give broad determinations to classify, and they are carriers of the universal mind in their field of, in all fields, because every physicist has political views, artistic tastes, etc. But in their field of expertise, they are the carriers of the universal mind within this limited topic. Here, spirit. So these are living individuals who carry knowledge. Yeah. So also I've understood that I have listened over the past many years to people who make a few hundreds or a few thousands of views at best on YouTube, but I know that their content is really highly qualitative. It's really great content in terms of insights, intellect, spirituality, etc. But I've lived in this world, which is actually the real world, but it's disconnected from ordinary consciousness because the people that I follow and that I'm interested in, they make a few hundreds of views, so they talk to a very select audience of very intelligent, very enlightened people. And the ordinary people, they are completely disconnected. That's why there are things that I think are completely self-evident for me and for the people that I live with intellectually and spiritually, but who are completely removed from the consciousness of ordinary people. That's why there are so many misunderstandings, and there will be more, but I have to get used to that. Yeah. Also, I can read the mind of some people, most people actually, but if I spend enough time intellectually with a person, by not directly, but by listening to her worldview or his worldview or the books that he or she wrote, etc., or reads, etc., I can read the mind of the other. Because we are all interconnected, because there is only one mind, so I can read an aspect of my own mind reflected in the mind of others, especially intelligent people who can express themselves clearly, and I can predicate determinations. But the problem for me and for others as well is that I consider some people to be some sort of close relatives, intellectual relatives, and for me they are part of my world and they are part of myself, and they are an aspect of me. I do not always think like this, but I feel confident to talking openly to them, but I've realized that they don't know anything about me as an individual and as a mind either. So it can appear as some sort of an aggressive behavior and a violation of the singular self of others or the privacy of others. And that's why when I encounter negativity, I've understood this, because I know things, I know determinations, I possess knowledge that others don't. And that's why there are misunderstandings. Also, let us talk about... I will briefly comment here. I just show... I said to myself, if people are annoyed by my voice, they can just watch the video without the sound, they will find interesting names. These are really people that I know about broadly and who are competent. There is a mixture of, here I just take the example, Chomsky is a highly respected intellectual figure in the field of language, and here these are YouTube channels that I've used to follow, but they are interesting as well. So of course it's not the same. It's difficult to classify them together, but this is my experience. I've not listed rigorously. I've done this. I've spent the whole day doing this, and it was the result of a classification over the past month, past few months of my intellectual life. But it's just really there's a mixture of Richard Lynn is so good and competent that he appears twice. Yeah. Yeah, it's Mr. Peterson. So here we have Peterson, who is famous. He makes millions of views, and I've just discovered her recently. She's amazing. She's amazing. She's amazing as well, but she makes a few thousands of views. So there are various levels of not of consciousness, precisely because her, for instance, or here these are ordinary YouTubers. They are more awakened in terms of intellect and spirit, in a way, here in the realm of psychology. So it's not really spirit, but they are spirituality and spirit are kind of distinct, but I will not go into complexity. But in a way, they are more enlightened than Peterson. Peterson is much more competent in terms of formal. I mean, they are competent as well, but he's more competent. But they have more insights, maybe on the spiritual aspect of things. Whereas Peterson, he's very smart, of course. But yeah, and it's a mixture, of course, of mostly Americans or Anglo-Saxon, but also French, because these are the two languages that I speak the most fluently, and also I speak partly German. I mean, I understand partly German. So yeah, yeah. I wanted to talk about knowing the others. Let us take the example of Newton. Isaac Newton, officially, when he discovered the laws of gravitation, he knew, not empirically, but he knew conceptually, in the ordinary sense, determinations about all humans that were, in the perspective, the historical perspective, and that would be, because he understood the physical determination of gravity, mass, movement, mechanical movement of objects, etc. And human beings, they are all determined physically in terms of having a body which has a mass, which is attracted by the gravitation of the Earth, but actually of gravitational attraction anywhere, on the Moon as well, or on Mars or wherever. And in this sense, Newton, or every physicist, actually knows in abstract the physical determination of every human. But of course, a human being is not just a physical object. He obeys the laws of gravity and electromagnetism, etc., etc. But yeah, but then in the realm of psychology, anthropology, the knowledge which is being made manifest through this. For instance, Jordan Peterson, to take the example, he knows about the psychology of every human, not on an individual level, but he knows the moment of the universality, what is generally applicable to all humans, and therefore Peterson can speak very vaguely about all humans and very accurately about specific individuals that he has the opportunity to study, either through their biography or through direct speech. But he produces unconsciously, but that's the case for every thinking agent and every scientist, knowledge about all humans. So for instance, Mr. Peterson, he could talk about the psychology of Woody Allen. Yeah. And Woody Allen could make jokes about German sociology, maybe. And here, Mr. Rinderman, those who study IQ, they know determinations of the quantitative determination of intelligence about every human on this planet. Billions of humans, 7 billions or whatever, because it just takes a few, a sample of a few hundred or few thousands, depending on the quality of the epistemological method, the method of gathering knowledge. But once the knowledge about quantitative determination of intelligence have been acquired for a group of humans which is sufficiently representative, depending on ethnic origin, gender, age, access to education, etc., it can be applied to all others. That's why knowledge, by definition, is universal. That's why there is only one mind. Yeah. Yeah, and then people who know about sociobiology, the sociobiological determinations of man, they are applicable to every human on this planet. And the same goes for economics, the laws of economics, of sociology, of politics, etc., etc. Women, well, all women, they share in common of being women. So the determination of womanhood being made known and through either scientific work or introspection, psychological introspection, they are valid for every woman all over the world. That's why we are living an age of revelation, because knowledge is made universal, valid for all. There can be disagreements here in free market economists and Keynesians, but the laws of economics are valid universally in every country. The laws are not easily graspable. It's very difficult to understand the laws, but the broad tendencies, then there are conflicts which are influenced by ideological reasons, but yeah, they are valid universally. Here, minimalism, there are examples. So I will just go back up and I will comment briefly. So that was my introduction. The video will not be too long. It's been 36 minutes. Yeah. So I comment not, here I do not read my notes. I speak ordinarily with what the content of my mind. God. There is a misunderstanding about what God is. God is a process. It evolves, it develops, yeah, which can be categorized in 3 moments: logic, nature, spirit. Logic is the pure intellect, the mind. That's what people say God sometimes is a mathematician. Mathematics is derived from logic. The logos, as the Christian call this, that's the mind of God, logic. So God has a pure intellect, a pure mind. This mind exteriorizes itself in nature, which is the world of physics. Here it's cosmology and physics, but the cosmologies, they can be classified in physics and reciprocally. Nature is the sensuous presence of God. That's creation in the sense of the realm of the senses, the material world, time, space, matter, movement, energy, etc., etc. And spirit is the consciousness that man acquires of nature and of himself and of God, and this is through the self-knowledge of man within God that God becomes conscious of himself. This is what happened to me in August 2018. And 4 years later, here's the formal presentation of what I've understood. So there are the 3 moments. So human beings live within God, but through their mind, they can elevate themselves above the limitations of the material plane, etc., etc. Yeah, so here is how it is divided, logic. So here I could classify all the metaphysicians, the modern metaphysician. I have already listed in other videos the dead metaphysician, but they come back to life in one way or another. Yeah, but all the modern metaphysicians, they carry within their mind knowledge, sometimes it's strictly formal, about metaphysics. The mathematicians, all the mathematical knowledge, not all, but most of the mathematical knowledge ever accumulated by mankind and being created and being brought forth and being discovered, depending on the epistemological classification, they are made present in the mind of the mathematicians. Here I just listed 3 names because precisely the purpose of this document is to be used by others. If I have to do all the work myself, I could spend decades doing this. I would enjoy this, but the problem for me is that there are problems in the world that I'm trying to solve. But if I have to, I've already said, if I have to classify myself, all the mathematicians, all the metaphysicians, all the logicians, all the cosmologists, etc., etc., I will do this myself. But I don't think that I can for inherent contradictions within reality. But I just encourage people who are interested in God or in mathematics or both, all the living mathematicians of significance, they can be classified here because their mind contains a reflection of the mathematical knowledge about the structure of the world, which is mathematically structured and ordered, quantified precisely, but also in the realm of pure logic, there are maybe the Platonic archetypes, etc., etc. Yeah. Here, all the modern logicians, the epistemologists, but usually these are philosophers. Yeah. So this is just an example. I know 3 people. These are YouTube channels. It's very interesting. She's very, very smart. Here is an Asian guy. It's very complex, but for those who have the intelligence, the time, the opportunity, here it's complex as well. A French mathematician. I will not comment singularly. I just show the process. Okay. Then nature. Here are the Germans. They enjoy science, those Germans. They have become decadent, the Germans, but they keep high standards nonetheless. So here are good YouTube channels about science, philosophy, etc., etc. The cosmologist. We live in an age where the knowledge about the structure, the origin, the development, the evolution of the cosmos, it can be delusional, but it's coherent in a way nonetheless, is made available in real time for people who have the opportunity, the interest, the leisure, the intelligence to do this. So I have said this many times. What do I do to try to solve the problem of the educational system? I provide an alternative. It's one way, it's one thing to first to understand that there is a problem. Ron Paul, the school revolution, dumbing us down, but then what to do to offer a solution, that's what I've been working on all day, and it's the result of months and years of development. I provide links to videos, YouTube channels, authors, so that people, instead of going to college and wasting thousands of dollars, getting into debt, having problems with the hookup culture, alcohol, being indebted, being ideologically manipulated, whatever, they can say, okay, I don't go to college, I will use the money that I have to watch videos by Mr. Krauss, or interviews by Peter Higgs or Roger Penrose, or the series by Carl Sagan made available on YouTube, etc. This is a possibility. The totality of world knowledge is made available in real time on the internet. The mind of God is being revealed. Yeah, I would like to sit peacefully in front of my computer and spend the rest of my life watching these videos, but I have a sense of morality. I really do, which forced me to try to solve the problems that at some moment I have caused unconsciously or consciously on a transcendental level, whatever, but I try to help others. If they are not interested, well, I don't know what to say, but yeah, so yeah, in English, in French, yeah. So I will repeat. I will not do this for every field, but the modern physicists, the most famous, maybe I forgot some, but they contain within their mind the self-consciousness of the cosmos. The cosmos becomes conscious of itself through the mind of these people. Mr. Hagelin, he knows this. The others, no, I'm not sure, but that the cosmotheist view, namely the idea that God and the cosmos and the consciousness of the cosmos is an access to the divine, one might say. But all these people, they share in common the same fundamental ideas, because at the speed at which physics and the knowledge about physics is made available through the sharing of information, these people, they have a very high IQ, and all the physicist students in the world, in the greatest universities, most prestigious, all over the world, where there is enough intelligence and political stability and interest to study science, every time that a physicist has a great idea, discovers a new theory, all the other scientists, potentially they become aware of this, and they try to refute or to assert or to defend or to contradict or to better the theory, to test, to validate or not, etc., etc. This is how the process of science works. And these people, they are some of the most knowledgeable in terms of physics. He provides a theory of everything, but strictly from a physical perspective. Not with all the distinctions in the process of becoming conscious of themselves, etc., etc. Here, physics could be classified. Chemistry, it can be found. Geology, people interested in geology. So it's the ontological structure, namely how the universe is structured. Cosmology, physics, or it's actually physics, cosmology, chemistry, geology, biology. They do not make videos on YouTube, or maybe they do, but they produce books. Mr. Dawkins. Ecology. Here it's ecology in a serious sense. It's not strictly speaking political, although it's partly political, but it's a mixture of political and scientific in a way. Ecology is a science, but it's also which can be applied within the realm of politics. The same goes with race realism. It's a science, the study of the anthropological determination of man, but then when it becomes political, it can either be common sense preservationism, or it can become racism with the negative consequences. Here, spirit, divided in subjective spirit, which is the realm of anthropology, the study of the soul, and divided into sociobiology. So here are some of the most prominent modern sociobiologists, which study the behavior of man influenced by his biological determinations and the collective life of man from a biological perspective, the influence on biology upon social interaction between humans. They are mostly in the US because it's the culture of the Anglo-Saxons and also the freedom of inquiry. And the rest of the world is lagging far behind. Even developed countries with a high prestigious intellectual tradition like France and Germany and England. England, they are quite good, but France, Germany, continental Europe, they are lagging way behind, and they are, in the sense, they are backward countries in terms of the recent development. That's why the US are so important, and the life of spirit and the intellectual cognition made available by these people and in the United States is worthy to be noted and respected and celebrated. Yeah. Yes, so important names. Anthropology, this is usually politically correct anthropology, and here it's more politically incorrect because they simply show through a rigorous study that the behavior of humans are determined partly by biology. Studies in demographics, phenomenology, that's the way the mind appears. Psychology, we have the study of IQ, important names, Jensen, Lin, Woodley of Many, Rinderman, Van Hanen. Is there Rushton? Where is Rushton? Here. He studied IQ as well. So yeah, they study IQ, and the knowledge that they possess about the quantitative determination of intelligence in humans, in different groups, classes, genders, etc., and their influence upon the social, economic, political aspect of societies is very important. And this is made available mostly in the Anglo-Saxon world, but here an example of a German, and it enables to simply shed light onto political life, economic life, social life in the present, but in the past as well, and to anticipate the future, etc., etc. And it is made available. Of course, they do not make conferences on YouTube, but their books can be bought. And yeah. About the question of language, so here, the people that I know about, Pinker and Chomsky, plus YouTube channels to teach. There are YouTube channels to teach most languages. If people are interested, is the time, the opportunity. Psychology, so here we have psychologists. Yeah. Humor, yeah. Then objective spirit. In the realm of rights and law, then each, there are the universal human rights. There would be the lawyers, the judges, the magistrate, the senators, etc. Those who are responsible for voting the laws, etc., etc. Education, I think it's German, they are French, American. Here it's so here are I think people who denounce sometimes the problem of the educational system. Here these are replacements. Potential replacements for the educational system because they provide free education on interesting topics, but what they lack is the formal view of the totality in order to recontextualize what what is being discussed, what is being talked about. Here is the formal structure. Yeah. Because the problem with this channel is that they talk about different topics, but it is never recontextualized. They talk about a new discovery in a field of biology, yeah, but it's not contextualized within the totality. So, yeah, they lack the full view, formally at least. The problems of crime and criminality. People who denounce crime in the US, in Germany, in France. So once people become aware of the problem has to be solved. What do I do to try to solve this problem? First, to abolish many bullshit jobs, the educational system, the welfare state, the negative aspect of socialism, and to make people aware of the problems. Then to solve them, that's my problem, but yeah. In the realm of morality, on YouTube there is a development of re-emergence of masculinity through these channels, for instance, and the counterpart, of course, is women. But here there are women who are, they are mostly French here, but in the US they are more traditional womanhood. Here these are simply emancipated women. Yeah, I put them there because they are, I think they do not have children, whereas the traditional womanhood, they have children maybe. Yeah, it's simply women who are not feminists. They are emancipating themselves from feminism, they are denouncing feminism, and they are recovering their femininity and their liberty and their happiness, maybe. Here we have feminists, and that's an illustration. The feminist ideas, they mostly come from American campuses, and they are being widespread in the Western world and in other parts of the world, but in real time is made available the knowledge that feminism ruins women, because it ruins their sense of traditional role, and usually feminists, after decades of feminism, in a perspective, the chronological perspective, it has had very negative consequences upon women, upon society at large, etc., etc. But the question of what is a woman, how do women behave, how are they determined biologically, psychologically, sociologically, metaphysically as well, it's universal. Yeah. So yeah, mostly French, but there are feminists in every country, and they all reflect the same idea. Naomi Wolf, she's intelligent. Yeah, and she wrote a book about the connection between the body and the mind, etc., etc. I will not. I have already talked about the references. Maybe I will use this book to share ideas. I don't know. Traditional womanhood. So here it's mostly in the United States. There is a resurgence, a revolt against feminism by traditionalist women. That's Stella, that I talk about so often, and they become traditionalists by recovering a sense of purposeful role to take care of the household, to bear children, to educate them, etc., etc. So there is a rise, a revival of masculinity in the West, and men give advices or ask themselves the question, what does it mean to be manly, etc. And the counterpart is a resurgence of traditional womanhood. And now every woman who has an access of the internet, if they speak English, they can look at these ideas and say, oh, that would be great, etc., etc., or that's too bad that we were influenced by feminism, etc., etc. So the consciousness of the totality is being made present in real time, in the sense that anyone can look at the difference between feminist women, traditionalist women, etc., and understand that they are reciprocally determining one another. Partly one aspect is a reaction against the other, that's dialectical, etc. Here we have the LGBTQ. Okay, no, Naomi Wolf, no. That's yeah. Here there are many others, all those who talk about the LGBTQ community. This is just my perspective in my intellectual development. I vaguely know about most of these people. I mean, here I know about them, and here I vaguely know. Either I have their books, or I've watched their conferences or their talks. So here we have anti-racism. It's mostly an American Anglo-Saxon phenomenon, but it's widespread in the world, in the Western world at large. But it's more difficult to implement in continental Europe, because historically there has been no racism, because there has been only one anthropological group, namely white people. It's only very recently, in a chronological perspective, that non-whites have arrived in Europe, whereas in the US or Canada, Australia, New Zealand, it's been more prevalent. But here the woke ideology I don't know the names in the Anglo-Saxon world, but here French people, they simply copy the Anglo-Saxon mind. So they are just a receptacle of the universal woke spirit, and they bring forth a reaction, a traditionalist reaction, and that's the movement of spirit. I will not go into much complexity, but that's how it works. Criticism of cultural Marxism. I have the books. Liberal ecologists. Here's an example. These are people who, liberals who care about ecology because they have nothing else to care about. That's one way of taking the moral high ground against the white working class. That's a strategy of a class domination, to stand for the good, the universal abstract good, while yeah, that's one way of, yeah. Non-white nationalists, is an example of France. So non-whites are it's acceptable for non-whites to be nationalists in the Western world, but not for whites. There are probably, I'm certain, I don't have the names, but there are black nationalists in the US, Hispanic nationalists, maybe Asian nationalists, and in every Western country, there are non-Europeans anthropologically who are allowed to be nationalists, but Europeans are not allowed to be nationalists. There are reasons, but yeah, I just, yeah. Here we have a non-racist critique of the JQ. So from people who criticize the influence of Jews, he's Jewish, but not from an ethnic perspective, but from either an economic or moral perspective. So that's a Jew criticizing other Jews. Here, in the realm of Sittlichkeit, in the realm of economics, we have the former leaders of the Fed, free market economists, here in France, but the same, the free market ideology, there is only one spirit of free market economy. There is only one spirit, but the free market economists, they are kind of the same in every country. Not individually, but the determinations of their thought, they are identical. It varies depending on, he's not really an economist, he's more a liberal in the sense of classical liberalism, but he's not really an economist, but whatever. Yeah, they just adapt their mindset, their thinking program to a particular situation, German economics, French economics, Italian economics, but actually the ideas, they are universal, and historically they have been born in Europe with Adam Smith, Ricardo, etc., but then they have traveled to the US, and now they come back, and now the most free market economists are influenced by the intellectual center of economic life, theoretically, which is the US. Here we have Keynesians. There are Keynesian economists in every country, a journalist or an economist or scholars. Here are just a few names: Krugman, Stiglitz, and Piketty. They are some of the most prominent. I'm not sure that he's a Keynesian, but that's he's kind of a leftist, interventionist economist. Libertarians and Marxists, I have classified them in politics. Debt, there are countless books written on the question of debt. Here's an example, but there are people writing about debt in every country, Western country, yeah. About the question of money, I could have put a Ron Paul here, but Ron Paul is classified with the libertarians, but that's just an illustration that the problems of the economic system are made present and manifest through books, publications, conferences, etc., etc. Critics of the Fed, we have Ron Paul and Edward Griffin, so everyone can access and know and understand that there are problems with the Federal Reserve, the inflation which is caused by the fiat currency, etc., etc., the manipulation of the stock exchange, etc., etc. Yeah. What to do about this? As of now, I retreat step by step my money from the bank, and I distribute my money because I don't really care about money. There are more important things in life, sometimes in difficult circumstances, etc., but I'm not very interested in money. That's why I struggle to understand people, and maybe that's why they don't understand me, because money is kind of it's good to have money, and I couldn't have bought all my books without money, etc., but yeah, it's not the the most important, depending on the circumstances, yeah, but home economics. So here we have minimalism, that people who willingly simplify their material life to focus on things which are more meaningful, more useful. Of course, they need an internet connection and they need hygiene, etc. But they do not waste their life working stupid jobs to buy useless products which are manufactured to break down, planned obsolescence. Anyone can check the planned obsolescence, and people can become aware that most products fabricated under capitalism, under capitalism, that's one of the problems of capitalism, are made willingly to break down and to be replaced, and they pollute, and it bring garbage. And so one way out of this is simply to buy local organic products. That's what I do, and to minimize. I no longer buy books on Amazon. I buy when I buy books, which I haven't recently, and I do not intend to do this. It's the local library, bookshop, sorry. Although I have so many books in my library that, and I simplify. I do not buy clothes any longer. I do not buy decoration, whatever. I really simplify. Here are people who get prepared by making food supplies. That's common sense as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be the bunker type of mentality, but just to plan ahead, and So that's a willing way out of the economic system. I mean, there's no way out, strictly speaking, economically, but it's simply to be prepared. That's common sense. Anarcho-primitivist, that's a kind of an economic political view. Here, sociology. These are examples about the question of the boomer generation. Here he welcomes the different types of people in his YouTube show. That's from Germany. Politicians. Here are important politicians: Mr. Biden, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Macron, Olaf Scholz, Viktor Orban, etc. All the politicians, actually. But I've asked myself the question: do they know what they are doing? In a way, they do, because they are more or less competent in their field. But do they have the knowledge that others have about the structure of the economy, the formal view of the totality, spirituality, God? I don't think that they do. So yeah. That's why at some moment, eventually, as long as the world lasts, when most people realize that there is a problem with the educational system, the banking system, crime, the welfare state, socialism, that they will say, but we can find our own solution. We don't really need that's why it's universal in a sense. The revolution, which is an intellectual revolution that I promote, is universal. So eventually, because there is only one world, and there is the consciousness of the unity of the world emerging through the internet. And when one country realizes that there are problems with the educational system and that there are very easy ways to solve the problems, or when the advances of science are made available to all, the countries, they will say, but we want improvement and progress for us as well. But then at some moment they will realize, but we are all one community. That's what I could say. The American government, the official and those who control officially as well, the official side of the deep state, one might say. Then there's the hidden side of the deep state, the financiers, the bankers, the people who follow religious plans, etc., etc. Former presidents, and all of all these people, they possess in their mind knowledge about an aspect of the process of God. They are very knowledgeable in the realm of secret services, etc., etc. But I know that they don't have. Here, it's really the document that I share. I've done this. It has taken me one day. It's not very serious. It's not very rigorous, but that's enough to kind of I mean, they do not have, I know in the secret services, well, the CIA, the Mossad, the DGSE in France, the MI5, or whatever secret services, the Russian secret services, they may have data, quantitative data and statistics about everything and everyone, but they do not have the process of the development of mind and spirit. They don't. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. They would be doing something more productive. Maybe they would follow the lectures made by the cosmologist or by psychologists. They would say, being a politician, well, I will be a politician as long as I have to, as long as I can, to promote right-wing libertarianism until common sense maybe is restored. Yeah, that's my creed politically, as of now at least. Here are politicians as well, but the democracy, that there are people who write books and who write convincingly books to show that democracy is a joke. It's not really serious. That's why I am misunderstood, because I have traveled and still do in realms of consciousness that I can back up with. That's the difference between those who live in cuckoo land and me, is that I can back up my claims about spirit with knowledge. The problem is that no one watches my video, but it is being manifest all over the world, at least where information is being shared, that democracy is a joke. It's not serious. But these people, they have invested their entire life. There are entire politicians, supporters, the very complex structures of government, etc., etc. But the people, they know that, I mean, they don't, but when they are kind of smart, they know that it's not worth time to go vote, and it's a waste of time. Oh, the media, the TV show, the newspapers writing about elections, but it's completely rigged. It's not that, I mean, from an ordinary standpoint, democracy in the West has brought about a situation where the people is in a process of being replaced, the culture is being erased, people get harassed, attacked, bullied, murdered, raped, abused every day. The financial system is a scam. The educational system dumbs people down. I mean, these things, I have come to know them over the past 2 years, but for me it was so self-evident that that's why I share the names of those who know about this. But actually, I have to go through all the steps. So, yeah. But democracy, yeah. Political philosophers here, a left-wing critique of multiculturalism. It's not a critique. He just explained that there are problems inherent in multiculturalism, and one way of solving the problems is libertarianism. Yeah, about demographic changes, etc., etc. Here are the left, what I call globalist intellectuals. People who promote globalism, that's in this moment, it's anti-European, not the Europeans of Europe, but anthropological European, so it's against the culture, the history, the tradition, etc., etc. Here are French names, but they are the same in every Western country. In England, they have globalist intellectuals, the US, etc., etc. Yeah. So here are the various classifications of left-wing politics, so non-white nationalists, liberal ecologists, the conservative left. So that's an aspect. They are leftist because they care, in the good sense, they care about the working class, but they are conservative precisely, whereas other leftists, globalist leftists, liberal leftists, etc., they only care about the elites, basically, about privileged white liberals. But here, the conservative left, that's a universal movement in the sphere of the Western world, namely, there is a part of leftist intellectuals or activists who revolt against the liberal left to defend the values of the working class. So they are, in a sense, they are right-wing and even populist, although they are leftist, but because they revolt against a leftist establishment. But here are distinctions. Leftist establishment, the left presupposes the right. It is leftist in comparison to the historical tradition of politics, but it's within the system. There is left and right as well, but it depends on what the terminacy is chosen. That's why the right-wingers within the system, they are right-wingers in relation to the system, but actually they are leftist in relation to common sense, but also to the historical perspective. Here we have the Islamo-skeptical left. So in every country, every Western country where there has been Muslim immigration, there are leftists who are skeptical about immigration because it brings problems for them in their perspective, for the problems of tolerance, equality of men and women, separation of church and state, etc., etc. So here's an example in France, but they are the same in Germany, England, etc., etc. Islamo-leftists, these are leftists who embrace Islam. European leftist, I mean, he's partly African, but here a European leftist who embraces Islam as a means to revolt against the moral decadence of Western civilization. That's a recurrent feature in the Western life. Western here means predominantly, overwhelmingly white populated countries, namely to be attracted by traditionalism from outside of the West, whether Russia or the Muslim world, to revolt against what is considered the moral decay of the Western world. So they are willing to unite with external agents. Russia, it's external geographically, Islam culturally and religiously, in order to struggle against the decadence of the modern West. It's a determination of the life of spirit. Here we have a pro-sovereignty left. In the Anglo-Saxon world, this would be the alt-right. These are kind of patriotic leftists. It's the modern generation, mostly people precisely who, through the accumulation of knowledge on the internet, have become aware of problems, but they are not willing to cross the border and to defend the ethnic interest of their own people. They try to find a solution to the ethnic tension by overcoming the ethnic problems through kind of socialism. Which is the wrong choice because the socialism brings about inherent problems. But they try to solve the ethnic divide. Yeah. Here we have communists. The intellectual center of communism is probably the US, like the intellectual centers of most, if not all, ideological and intellectual and spiritual movement. And here are countless French communists. The idea of communism is made present, manifest, is becoming wirklich through the mind of intellectuals all over the world, but mostly in the Western world, American and French, and there are communists in Germany. Here are German communists in England, etc., etc. So these are not workers; these are intellectuals. So yeah, anarcho-communism. These are examples. So in case it's not clear, it's been 1 hour and 12 minutes. These are just illustrations, but all the communists of the world unite. No, unite with the libertarians, not against them, because both sides they just want the abolition of the state in a way, and a free society of workers with no external constraint in a way. What do you say? Yeah. So the idea of communism is made present, becomes conscious of itself, or precisely not, but can potentially become conscious of itself through the mind of all the communists of the world, if they have the intelligence, the training, the formation, and the same goes with libertarianism. Yeah. Here are ecologists, which are serious, and here, now the right. We have the alternative media, and in every country where there is a relative freedom of expression, there is an alternative. There has been an alternative to the mainstream media, which has emerged. Here are examples, but there is in France, in England, in Germany, in the US, etc., etc. And that is one of the most important determination, namely the consciousness that humans have of their relation to the world is no longer mediated by the official media like it has been officially over the past 50 years. They can access directly knowledge. That's why there is a great awakening. It is God recovering his mind. I am recovering my mind. Bits by bits, part by part, etc., etc. Conservative, these are people in their 40s, 50s, or 60s who are nostalgic of the world of their youth, which is about to disappear if the demographic replacement is not stopped. So they are nostalgic, and they are not willing to embrace radical political views, but they try to say, okay, we want to to preserve the demography of white people, but we are not willing to talk about this. So we find various strategies to, yeah. That's why they are criticized by the left and by the more radical right-wingers, because they are kind of in an ambiguous position. They talk around the problem without mentioning the problem of race. Here are conservatives in America, but there are conservatives in every country, and there's only one idea of conservatism. It can take an infinite variety of shape and forms, but all the conservatives, they repeat the same slogan, more or less. The Americans, maybe they are more entertaining, no doubt about this, but the conservatives, they are like the free market economies. They're all the same in a way. Yeah. The moderate right, they are not really right-wingers, they are kind of leftist, but let's pretend that they are on the right. Populists, here all the populists can be classified here, Bolsonaro, Orban, Farage, Boris Johnson, or whatever, all the populist movement in Italy, whatever, they all share the same idea. It's the same as the conservative here, to preserve the demographic interest of Europeans, of white people, without mentioning this. That's why once someone has gone through the process, it appears like a kind of a waste of time, because I mean, it's not because every moment is important, but simply what is important is that it triggers a movement in the realm of consciousness. But the populist, the purpose is to go further in terms of intellectual development. But yeah, so here are Islamophobe people, mostly in Europe, in continental Europe, people who revolt against Islam in various ways, against the excesses, etc., etc. A left-wing revolt, a kind of folk nationalist. It's more intellectual. We have westernized immigrants in every Western country. There are descendants of immigrants who have become westernized, namely they are not European anthropologically, and they can't be, but they can adopt the values of Western civilization. And it happens in the US as well. Successful Asians, successful Hispanics, blacks, it's different because they have been in a way westernized for many centuries in the case of Afro-Americans, but recent descendants of immigrants who have adopted the values, here it's the realm of objective spirit, of Western civilization. But Western civilization is not Europe, it's partly America because it's an institutional civilization. But yeah, these people, they suffer in a way, although they are successful, but they suffer because they are partly rejected by other immigrants or descendants of immigrants which are not as successful, and partly by the native population. Yeah, so yeah. The alt-right, here are names. The zeitgeist is becoming conscious of itself, or has become conscious of itself through them, but then there are divisions. That's how the process of spirit unfolds, because it's not radical enough, there are too much compromises, etc. So that's why it goes further. Here we have hard Republicans. Republican is a determination specific to the US, but there are right-wing, hardline politicians in every Western country, and eventually in every country, but here it's mostly the case of the West. You have the soft far right in France. Now the libertarians. The spirit of libertarianism is made manifest in the US, but it is universal. Anyone can adopt this spirit. The videos of Stefan Molyneux, they are not watched. They are watched significantly, but it's not hundreds of millions. But it could be because he speaks intelligently, and people then they can learn about the problems of socialism, the advantages of libertarian ethics, the question of IQ, economic status, etc., etc. And that's why here we have the French libertarians. They borrow most of their ideas from the American libertarians and the American tradition, which is partly Jewish, but partly American as well, and partly French with the 19th century thinkers. But that's a movement. It happens in Germany as well, in every country where people are rather intelligent, even though they may have become decadent, but they are rather intelligent, and they have the freedom to express themselves and to study, etc. This is what happens. That's why the libertarian ideas are on the rise, one might say. Have we started the fire? Yeah, the fire rises. Let's hope so, I don't know. But that's why I understood. I've made hundreds of videos in English for not consciously always, but actually mostly an American audience with specific people in mind, but mostly in the American context because I speak English and my entire intellectual and spiritual life, not entire, but predominantly, overwhelmingly comes from America. But I cannot enlighten the Americans if I do not enlighten myself first. And the people who live geographically next to where I find myself in empirically, so I will try to import, I have already tried to import libertarian ideas in France. That's very difficult, but actually they are universal. When people all over the world, they realize, but that's one way, or maybe the best, no, it's actually the best way of organizing politically, as long as there is politics. Yeah. We have a revival of reactionary Catholicism in most Catholic countries historically here in France, but there's only one Catholic spirit, because there's only one spirit, the Spirit of God. The Catholics should know that. Precisely, they don't. The Protestants, they know that, but the Catholics, yeah. So here are French Catholics. Yeah, that's why we live an age of spirituality, the rise of spirit in all levels, cosmology, anthropology, psychology, all the layers, economics, sociology, and then eventually religion, etc. We have the alt-right, which is the alternative right. Here it's the official, more or less, American alt-right, but there's also, whether or not they identify officially is not relevant, it's simply an alternative to the right. It's the alt-right in a more radical way. So here are names. It's a universal in the realm of the Western world, but actually it's universal because the kind of ideas, political, sociological, anthropological, psychological, which are being unfolded by the process of spirit, they become de facto universal. The kind of knowledge that these people use or intend to use in terms of IQ, sociobiology, everyone can know about this from every country to help understand themselves, think about improving themselves, or understanding their current or past failures or successes, or etc., etc. It's becoming widespread. They are not alt-right, but they are an alternative view of the right in the context of France. But it's a universal movement because the Western world has become astray, has gone way too far on the left, and balance has to be restored, which means a return, in the first moment, to right-wing politics in order to restore common sense, one might say, as long as there is politics. So these people, the new generation, they are influenced by American ideas in sociobiology, IQ, maybe libertarianism or nationalism, as we'll see. That's how the process of consciousness emerges. And here it's not the alt-right as such, but it's an alternative right in the context of England, here in Scotland. Here we have the far-right bourgeoisie. Here it's kind of the old aristocratic European in the sense of continental Europe. They do not have this in the US. I mean, they do, but it's more vigorous in the US. Here it's kind of a little bit decadent. Yeah. He's kind of vigorous, but he borrows his ideas from the US. That's why there is a universal process of consciousness. In case it's not clear for others, for me it's clear, but for the others, I don't know. Here is the connection between white identity politics and libertarianism. The idea is simply that actually not only, but mostly white are interested in libertarianism. It's a political idea which is great, but which appeals mostly to whites. But yeah. Pro-white Jews, so Jewish individuals who defend the interest of whites in the US, South Africa, France, etc. A revival, or rather the rise of white identity. For the first time, in a historical perspective, white people become conscious of their identity as an anthropological group on a world scale, because people with an internet connection can access the works, very moderate, of American Renaissance and the people gravitating around Jared Taylor. Here it's open white nationalism, And that's why white identity collectively, as a collective consciousness, is being forged, but it's kind of empty because white people are not just an anthropological determination. They have a culture, a religion, sets of ethics, political views, etc., etc. And the process of reconstructing white identity, abstract identity, which begins with a conservative revolt, as we've seen, against the mainstream media, etc. This is what the people call the red pill. It begins with an alternative access to information, then conservatism, moderate right, populism, Islamophobia in the case of continental Europe, or Hispanicophobia, maybe in the case of the US, but it's simply a repulsion of the other, which becomes another because there is the consciousness of a divide and a sense of self, which is in the process of reconstructing itself. That's the red pill expressed intelligibly, without too much complexity, but nonetheless rather more or less philosophically. And that's the path that mostly young white males, but actually right-wing whites, and eventually most whites take. So we will have the far right in the US, a little bit excessive, but it's a moment in the process. Here we have entertainment, basketball. I could list all the basketball players, the soccer players, the tennis players, that just to illustrate that within being there is sport and entertainment. That's why I still fail. I kind of understand, but I have failed at someone to understand. But why aren't people interested? I talk about everything. Surely there are people who are interested in basketball. Yes, but they are just interested in basketball and they do not recontextualize within the totality. Basketball is a product of economics, sociology, there has to be leisure, etc., etc., anthropology, etc., etc., because, to deny, here, just example, to deny the existence of race by just looking at the NBA or the gathering of libertarians or of ecological group, it is clearly self-evident for anyone who can see that most people gather together around ethnicity. It's not done consciously, but that's how it works. It doesn't mean that they are racist, but it's simply that in certain aspects of collective life, people gather according to the determination of race, in the realm of sport, but in the realm of politics, in the realm of ecology, religion as well, etc., etc. It's becoming self-evident, so it can still be denied, but it's very difficult. But here it's self-evident for the Americans, but there are many countries, either English-speaking countries or non-English-speaking countries, where just acknowledging that there are ethnic differences and that it determines the social life, not fully but predominantly in an important way, it's not in the collective consciousness. So here, technology, important entrepreneurs, so the highest development, transhumanism, the singularity, space travels, the latest innovation, the Silicon Valley, etc., is made manifest in the mind of these people, who most of them are very intelligent or even geniuses, maybe. Whistleblowers, so people become aware of the big data, big brother, technological control, gathering of data, etc., etc. But who wants to gather data? Eventually it's God, who is supposed to know everything. So people, sometimes they revolt against, the religious people, they revolt against, the cosmic conspiracy, etc., or the Luciferian conspiracy. But who wants to have knowledge about everything? It's God. So, that's not always clear, but I try to clarify. I do not put the blame on God, but simply, if God is all-knowing, eventually at some moment he has to be. Gathering knowledge through internet data is part of the process. So here, precisely the conspiracies, people who unfold the conspiracy, but the conspiracy is the movement of spirit with whom I identify as an individual, detaching itself from the substance and reconstructing its self-identity. So we all exist within the process of spirit. Of course there is a conspiracy, because but it's the conspiracy of God in a way, because eventually reality is spiritual. and spirit is a process of self-differentiation and re-establishment of self-identity through acquiring knowledge. This divide is what enables the world to come into existence, not into being, but into existence, precisely. Yeah. So yeah, the people who complain about the conspiracy, etc., etc., I understand why they do, but they do not see that their revolt against the conspirationist is part of the conspiracy, because by revolting against what they think are the conspirators, they acquire knowledge, and this process of acquiring knowledge through rebellion, if these people knew that they are Luciferan or whatever, the people who talk about this conspiracy, they would be frightened, maybe. Don't be frightened. I mean, maybe later, I don't know, but yeah, that's why religious people, well, I might have problems with them. That's a joke, that's a joke. I might have problems with atheists as well. I might have problems with everyone eventually, but I'm not even sure that people will know about God at some moment. But we'll see eventually. The historians, here I could list all the historians of all the countries. These are just two people that were in my documents, but a leftist perspective on the history of the US, and a history of Africa from a right-wing French native perspective. But all the historians, actually, the living historians, most of them are recreating a fake history when they are within the system, and those who revolt against the system, they are rewriting history for the good, and they complain, history is being rewritten, but that's what they do, that they bring forth truth by revolting against falsehood. This is a spiritual process, and I'm not talking about this, but all the historians who write the history of, to re-establish truth, to restore historical justice, not from a social justice perspective, but from the perspective of serious intellectual work, they bring forth the knowledge of the history of nations, in a way. But the concept of nation, it's important partly through genetics and language and culture, but eventually it is in the process of being aufgehoben, because there is a universal community of consciousness, of spirits, emerging through the internet. But there are people at various layers of consciousness. So here are, in the realm of music, which is the expression of all the determinations of a society and of a people, anthropology, etc., Afro-American artists. I came to win, to thrive, to conquer, to rise, etc., etc. These just illustrate the movement of spirits. Yeah. Harder, better, faster, stronger, whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger, etc., etc. Or stranger, or both. White American artists. I've talked about this. Eminem is the embodiment of God in the realm of pop culture. Lady Gaga, the female aspect of God, because they have all the aspects. They are creative geniuses. They have the serious, comical, partly dark, but also emotional, very intelligent. They are exceptional. Yeah, there are dark aspects in their songs sometimes, or kind of twisted for the good or less good. But this is God made human in the realm of pop culture, and goddess in a way. So they are here. It's important. They are Americans from the point of view of citizenship and their personal history in the chronological perspective, but they are also Europeans anthropologically and culturally. It's important. And they are divine, so they are American gods of Europe, European gods of America. No, I don't know how to formulate this, but they are not European gods in the sense that they do not belong to the pantheon, but they are gods and they are Europeans simply because they express in their songs and in their maybe their life the determination of God as a totality, a perfect totality with all the aspects. That's why Eminem is perfect. It doesn't mean that everything he does is great, although I've already talked about it. I'll say 85% it's really great, or more than great. 10%, well, It's kind of dark, but brilliant nonetheless. And well, a few songs. Let's pretend it's okay when you produce I don't know how many dozens of songs which are mind-blowing, breathtaking, exceptional. It's okay to have a little bit less inspiration maybe sometimes, and the same probably goes for Lady Gaga. Yeah, that's almost a perfect 10, but actually precisely the perfection comes from the fact that all the aspects are contained within the career of Eminem, and it's mostly more than brilliant. It's divine perfection, one might say. And all the others, they are predominantly white, which means European anthropologically. Here it's a creative genius as well. I've already talked about this. There are various classifications. There would be kind of romantic Europeans, not in terms of anthropology. They are all anthropological Europeans, but they would be kind of romantic European. And here they are really American in terms of culture, but they are still nonetheless influenced by Europe, romantically, etc. Here, romantic European, as I call this. Britney, partly also, but Britney, Taylor, Katy Perry, they are typically American, but they are anthropologically European, and the European soul, as I call this, still expresses itself in their songs. But there's a difference between the style of Britney, Taylor, and Katy Perry, and the style of Lana Del Rey, Marilyn Manson, which are more European, for sometimes the dark part, and Eminem and Lady Gaga, they are the perfection, but they are predominantly European in their expression, I would say, but yeah. They are typically European as well. The same goes for them. Here they are American, but they breathe the European spirit in a way here that's complex. I will not go into a full explanation, but yeah. Here are modern British, modern German, typically German, for the better. Let's hope so, I don't know. Hispanic American, but I could list all the artists of all countries, but great pop culture is predominantly overwhelmingly American. Cinema, here then again I listed this in I don't know, I took 3 minutes maybe, but all the movie directors, all the actors, yeah, that's European beauty. Here as well, in the realm of men, but yeah, movie directors, yeah, literature. Then again, they were on my documents, people I vaguely know about, either they are on my library or I vaguely know about them, but I haven't thought this through. I could have added much more. Modern, of course, these are only living persons in the realm of the current world, yeah. And in religion, and again, theologians in the US, what I call formal paganism, yeah, New Age people. So here we enter the realm of inspired people, or in search for inspiration, I don't know. Theologians, Christian theologians, pagans, formal pagans, New Age gurus, leaders, whatever, what I call witches, which are overwhelmingly European women with a connection of the soul to the cosmos, to the realm of nature. They are enlightened, intelligent, in connection with the cosmic life, one might say. Magic, here we have tarot readers, pagans, these are YouTube channels, yeah, American pagans. Here it's more serious than just the formal aspect, and because these people usually they know broadly the determinations that I've just been listing for more than 1 hour. Here are pagans in Europe, on the European continent, but all of them actually, that's why Europe exists beyond the European continent, because most of the revival of paganism, they come from the US. Maybe because the Americans, in terms of citizenship, they miss their European roots more than Europeans who have become even more decadent, maybe, I don't know. But that's why the revival of paganism, either in the formal aspect, in a more serious aspect, or then we'll see the really consistent aspect, it comes from mostly the US. That's why Europe, the European soul is awakening, the European spirit is being revived in America. That's why America, there are many other reasons, that's why America is so important. Yeah. And they are aware of the knowledge produced mostly in America because of the intelligence, the freedom, the investigation, etc., etc. That's why the people that are listed here, they are the most enlightened. And sometimes there are gurus who are more enlightened by intervention, I don't know, from God. But here, these people, they go through all the steps, not thoroughly, not necessarily consciously, but they are aware of the determinations of all the steps of the process, all the layers of being. That's why they have cosmic experience. It's not always the case. Namely, these people, they have cosmic consciousness. They know themselves to be moments in the cosmos becoming conscious of itself. That's the same for David Thomas, who is maybe one of the most enlightened person on this planet. I don't know precisely because he lives beyond this planet. Affected collective as well. But yeah, they do not necessarily have all the steps. Here, I put Hegelian philosophers. Actually, these people, they are just formal philosophers. But in the process, the Hegelian philosopher should be kind of there because philosophy is the conceptual grasping of the totality. But here, they are classified here. It's only formal. I mean, some of them are really profound, like Maggie, Koenig, Jean-Claude Martin, etc. But yeah. And then, finally, what I call philosophy. Here are philosophers which are also partly formal. Maggie appears twice, but he's really great. Okay, let's... yeah. Here it's also formal. They are formal philosophers here, and then they are reconstructing, they are more inspired, especially footnotes to Plato. Yeah. He also belongs to cosmic consciousness, but he's even more intelligent because he has most of the layers, but also the formal aspect of philosophy. And here other formal philosophers, and here what I call the European gods and goddesses, namely the individuals who possess the highest level of consciousness, the most brilliant, the most intelligent, and the best in the world, in my world, because they have a knowledge broad of all the layers of being, not in terms of expertise, but they know broadly all the aspects. As I do, it doesn't mean that I'm an expert in every layer, but they are simply intellectually the best, and spiritually, and they are the most brilliant, and yeah. Yeah. So that's my view, current view of God. As God is being, it's a process. These are just individuals. I have not listed the influence of dead authors which come back to life through being incorporated into the process of consciousness. I have not listed the formal, which is not formal, the actual development of Geist, etc. But I have not worked thoroughly to fill all the categories, but it's simply the formal structure. Maybe that's the last time, probably, that, at least in English, because I will share this document if I can in French, while expressing myself in French to explain, but it's much more difficult because the Americans and the Anglo-Saxons here, truth be told, they are much smarter, partly in terms of IQ, but I'm not talking about everyone, but the elite, what I say, because not the elite of the political realm, the elite, the intellectual elites, the intelligent people, whether they come from a small background or the academics, the scholars, etc., because the knowledge being produced is simply much more developed in the US, in the Anglo-Saxon world at large. It's on a completely different level, different from continental Europe, but it's even more remote from the rest of the world. And these are most of the people that have been listed, they are overwhelmingly European anthropologically. That's a fact. the most intelligent, the most productive, the most brilliant, the most enlightened, they are not only European, they are overwhelmingly European. The life of spirit, in this sense, is overwhelmingly European, but precisely knowledge is, by its very nature, universal. That's the particular is European, the universal is world knowledge, world spirit, the spirit of God, etc., etc. So it's been 1 hour and 45 minutes broadly. I will not comment much longer. Maybe I will make other videos during the night. I don't know. Right now I will take a short pause. This is it's not rigorous. Really, it's not rigorous. It's rigorous formally because I try to classify, but I have not worked thoroughly to try to fill in the formal aspect. It's simply to share my view of God as being precisely, but being in the process of becoming conscious of itself with others, so that some others eventually might borrow my documents. I am the light bringer. This is the thunder of Zeus stolen by Prometheus in Greek mythology. Because if no others use the formal presentation of God, there are other ways of getting to know God or to experience God, but just here it's really the lowest level of seriousness, very the lowest level. Below that, it's not serious at all any longer. It's that this is maybe my last. It's not my last attempt, but it's simply not to prove my intellectual worth. I have kind of renounced to that, but to show to as of now the few persons who watch my videos that what I talk about when I talk about God, what I have in mind, not consciously, but the presupposition of knowledge that I possess when I talk about God, to make maybe my videos intelligible. Yeah, that's my attempt. And no, I've understood that I am all alone in my world, and I will use my own ideas on an empirical level, but to borrow the ideas of others to try to solve the problems. And right now, politically, I will be a libertarian. I will do libertarian politics. Minimum libertarian is the ideal, the end goal, as long as I have to do politics, and then I will try to solve problems, but it's kind of difficult. But these are my problems. I will do what I think is right and correct, but precisely I've said this at the moment in the video that I develop so fast, I improve in a way constantly. Every day I become smarter, which makes me consider my past as being filled with errors and mistakes. I will not comment much longer. I've said what I had to say. We are all one mind, one spirit, one being experiencing itself. And yeah. This is my contribution, plus all the other videos, and plus all the videos that I will keep publishing as long as I can in either English or French, or both, or if I talk publicly, I don't know. But that's what I had to say. So the formal view of God as being the totality of being, becoming conscious of itself. Yeah, and the attempt to abolish the educational system, to provide alternative education for others eventually interested in understanding the world, understanding themselves, or understanding God. Yeah, that's my current contribution to trying to solve problems. Yeah, I will stop the video here for now. So thank you. If you have watched this, if someone other than myself and the 5 or 10 or 15 viewers, if you have watched this, I don't know what you will think. Maybe you can tell me, or maybe you won't. I don't know. But yeah, Thank you.